Well, I'm kind of curious. So, of course, we work with the sandwich generation, with people that are dealing with an aging parent or a loved one, and you, of course, are doing that with your grandmother. You're 97, is that correct? 97 years old.
97. She turned
Mm,
97 in June.
wow.
I'm kind of curious as to how you got into that, and how you became the caregiver for your grandmother.
Sure. So my grandmother she stayed alone until she was 90.
Mm,
After my grandfather passed away, my cousin stayed with my grandmother, and then he graduated and went off and lived his life. And so my grandma stayed by herself for about 20 plus years, maybe 20
mm.
years, maybe 18 years or so. And so she turned 90, and woohoo, for her 90th birthday, she fell.
Oh
Oh
no.
my.
That was her present to herself. She fell about 4 or 5 months after she had her 90th birthday. And she and I, we always talk in the morning, which we still do when I'm not there, talk to her every morning around the same time. And so she had called me, and she sounded okay, but it was a little bit earlier than she normally calls. And so she said, well, I fell. And I said, okay. And so she tells me the whole story. She was taking out pulling the garbage out. She still took her own garbage down to the end of the road. In the country, you have to take your garbage to the end of the road and they come and pick it up and everything. So she would drive it down every Wednesday. And so she said she was pulling the garbage out and she lost her balance and she fell back and she slammed against the hot water tank.
Mhm.
And so subsequently, she broke a lot of bones in her ribs and she ended up with pneumonia and just all of this stuff. So her doctor was like, yeah, it's about time for you guys to, Miss Erling, her name is Erling. Miss Erling shouldn't be living by herself anymore. So my mom headed there first and she was on her way to Hong Kong. So she said, hey, can you come down a little early? Because I normally would spend the last month with my grandmother. So this was during December of 2017. And I said, sure. So I just closed up shop in New York and beat it to Mississippi. And I stayed with her initially for 9 months to help her heal and kind of get back on her feet, which she did. She had around the clock care, nurses, and a physical therapist. But my mom and I decided at that point, like, hey, well, this is what has to be done. So I stayed for 9 months, and then my mom came and gave me a break, and I came back to New York, and we did the 3 month thing for a while, and then my mom was like, 3 months is just a little crazy. So, because my mom has a business and a husband in the Chicago area. So
Oh
she said,
my.
why don't we do 6 months? And so that's kind of how it started. So now we 6 months on, 6 months off.
Wow.
So that's pretty much the beginnings of my caretaking for grandma.